That's Trevor McGee. I'm Caleb Jarreau here at Neyland Stadium. You know who's not here, Trevor?
I have a wild guess.
Nico Iamaleava went into halftime, did not come out after halftime. So we'll lead with that because that's all anybody really cares about since Tennessee beat the worst team in the SEC. I think it's arguably the worst team in the SEC, but it's pretty close. Nico, no real update. ESPN said upper body injury makes you think concussion, but Heupel said he anticipates him being back next week. So what did you think about Tennessee without Nico Iamaleava in the first quarter? Also, in the second half. Also, you got a mean comment saying that Tennessee rallied in the second half without Nico. So why don't you defend yourself?
I will preface that by saying the word rallied is Tennessee rallied behind missing their starting quarterback, who has been touted for quite a while. They've been expecting him to perform for now 2 seasons. He comes out, he starts this year. So when you rally, I am saying they rallied behind the fact that they lost their starting quarterback. They did not come from behind. That is the typical reasoning for using the word rally. Yeah. They didn't do that. However, they did rally behind the fact that when you lose a leader, your quarterback, the guy that has been touted for quite some time, you rally behind him to pick up the win. That is what I was saying. So for those Twitter users, ex-users that would like to say, rallied, this is a clown post.
All right. Now we got that out of the way. Do you feel better, Trevor? About your clown post?
A little bit.
All right. Nico Iamaleava in the first half, 8 of 13, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, long of 73. Looked really, really good in the first half. Finally started connecting on the deep balls. And I think we saw a little bit of Nico realizing, especially on the one of Dante Thornton down the right sideline, hey, if I don't overthrow him, it gives him a chance to make the play. And we saw Dante Thornton come back, make a great play on the ball because he was recruited here because he has great ball skills from Oregon. Made a great play there. Also hit Squirrel White on a deep ball for a touchdown. So what did you think about Nico in the first half?
Yeah,
before they had to rally.
Yeah, it's a shame that he couldn't play the second half because he was well on his way to his best SEC performance this year. He's gotten better each week. It's all come so close to working. This week it was finally working. He missed 1 ball, but other than that, you're just like right there where you feel like next week is finally when it all clicks, and now you're in a really tough spot because Nico looked really, really good through 30 minutes of football, and then it all shocks us when he doesn't come out for the second half. Yeah. It just really hurts if you're Tennessee because everything was finally clicking.
And you also have to mention Josh Heupel anticipates him being back next week and that it was a precautionary measure. Well, like Trevor said, next week is not UTEP or Mississippi State. You're going to Athens, Georgia. That'll be Nico's first. I mean, he played on the road at Arkansas, but I mean, truthfully, that's a road environment that's going to be rowdy. We saw Hendon Hooker struggle there. So if Hendon Hooker struggled there as one of the best quarterbacks of recent memory here at Tennessee, you have to expect Nico and the noise might see issues. I mean, once again, he's a redshirt freshman. This is his first year playing. And he doesn't play the second half here. And now his status is up in the air. What if he can't practice this week because of his upper body injury he suffered tonight? On to Gaston Moore, finished 5 of 8, 38 yards. Gaston Moore has never seen a pass he didn't like, was throwing the ball deep, and it worked. He got a ton of defensive pass interference calls and got the ball moving. And he didn't turn it over. So for Gaston Moore, I mean, he did what you wanted him to do, didn't give away any free points, helped the offense run a little bit. Dylan Sampson got banged up in this game as well. 30 carries for 152 yards, 149 net yards, and a touchdown with a long run of 33, averaging 5 yards a carry. He got an ankle injury in the first half, ends up coming back, fighting through a ton of carries for Dylan Sampson. I don't think anybody wanted him to get that many carries, but I think with the way the game was flowing, plus Nico getting hurt, it kind of went the way of Dylan Sampson toting the rock.
Yeah, I'm not a coach. I never claimed to be a coach, but it was really interesting when you have a 2-score lead and you're still bringing out a very much hurt Dylan Sampson. You could tell he was really slow to get back to the huddle, really slow to line up to either hip.
Limping on the sideline.
Gaston Moore. I mean, obviously it works out. You win the game, but you wonder the calculated risk there because 30 carries in a game that you didn't need him to touch the ball that many times, and he's hurt. It's a little questionable, but as long as he's good to go for next week, I guess you can't complain because he still showed up.
I think that's all that matters. And a guy like Dylan Sampson has been to those road environments, has played in those road environments. He's also your running back, and he's gotten a ton of carries this year, and he's played good. So I don't know if you really want him to practice this week, maybe get a couple reps, rest, get better, and then go to Georgia and play, because he's a guy that I think you can put him in any environment at this point, he's getting his, because he broke 1,000 yards today, becoming the 20th running back in Tennessee history to run for 1,000 yards. Got his 20th touchdown today, extending his record. So I think he's a guy that you can just plug and play at this point, as long as he's healthy. This many carries, especially when you're looking at a team that might make the playoff, is not good, because the way Tennessee is trending now, they will be in the first round of the playoff, you would assume, unless, you know, they win the SEC championship. But they'll probably be in the first round of the playoff, which means you're looking at, you know, possibly 16 games before the season's over. And you want a guy like Dylan Sampson to stay healthy. And you see it in the NFL when they're rationing carries for running backs. Peyton Lewis got some good run, 44 yards. Cam Seldon burned his red shirt today, so he is alive. He is on the team. 6 yards, 26, or 6 carries, 26 yards. Let's pivot to the defense, which once again has not allowed more than 19 points this year. And Mississippi State's defense is terrible. So there's not much to talk about. I mean, that was known coming in. What we also knew coming in was that their offense can move the ball pretty well. Jeff Lebby is a product of Josh Heupel, was his quarterback coach at UCF. Michael Van Buren Jr. at quarterback is legit. He can rip the ball. He can move. They're going to be a threat here in a couple of years once they finally build up a defense in Lebby's rebuild. But Tennessee's defense held them to 14, looked very good. Forced a fumble, forced a pick. What did you see to the defense tonight, Trevor? Yeah, 92 yards through the air, by the way, for Michael Van Buren, and 211 yards on the ground.
The defense never changes. It's just a shock when you look at the past 2 seasons, what Tennessee has had on defense. You finally look, you have the depth to do things like they've been doing this year. It's the product of the depth, obviously, because I'll go ahead and just throw another name in there. William Wright. We finally saw him on the field on a punt return, or on a kick return, rather. That's a guy that played a lot last year because there wasn't depth, but now that you have it, the defense is really showing up. 14 points, 2 touchdowns to a Mississippi State team. Yes, not very good, but Michael Van Buren, he will be good. He's a true freshman. He's looked like a promising athlete, but today he was quite rattled, and some of that could be the crowd. It wasn't the loudest today. Homecoming week. A lot of people in the student section
felt like a very mid-major, or not by-game-esque.
Yeah. Student section was gone pretty quickly because once halftime rolls around for homecoming week, it's all out of there because they're only here for the awards. However,
also, I think Nico not coming out after halftime was a pretty good, hey, let's head to the house.
Yeah. So the defense, once again, really good. Boo Carter, first career interception, came right after Dylan Sampson fumbled in the red zone. So the defense steps up when the offense needs it most.
Yep.
Given the offense didn't help out, but they went 4 and out the next possession. They were stuffed at the 1-yard line, but still the defense doing everything they can to help this Tennessee team out, and it's just hopeful that Nico is not seriously hurt because it seems like everything is really close to finally clicking.
Yeah, and I think for this team too, there were some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. One that comes on is Jacoby Thomas. But with their injuries, I think a lot of those guys walked off the field. So I think they'll be ready. And also with the Georgia game coming up, that's one where if you're 80%, you're 100, like you're playing in that game. So I think, like you said, the defense continues to play great. James Pierce Jr. continued to wreak havoc off the edge. And, I mean, he's not even the guy that's getting talked about the most. Jason Jenkins, we talked to tonight, strip sack. Jeremiah Thielander recovered that fumble. Arian Carter had a tackle tonight where he drove the running back into the pile sideways and everybody moved 5 yards. Those are the plays that the team is making. Ricky Gibson with great plays out in coverage on some of those screen passes that Mississippi State likes to do. Because, once again, Jeff Lebby, product of Josh Heupel. They threw those screen passes out. Those DBs were wrapping up and getting guys on the ground. So I think this team, and with the coaches that they have, I mean, you think about some of those guys, Willie Martinez, Rodney Garner, those are old school guys. This team wraps up in tackles. There's no missing tackles with this group. There was a narrative in the press conference, a lot of questions asked about big runs. Okay. I mean,
if you're going to allow a long touchdown run, not even long touchdown run, but some longer runs here and there, I think you'll accept it when the defense has done what it has throughout this season.
Yeah, you had a 1-yard rush for a touchdown for Mississippi State and an 18-yard rush for a touchdown for Mississippi State. Longest rush of the night was 43 yards. And it came from starting running back for Mississippi State. So once again, I think, sure, you can look at the film and say some of those runs probably weren't filled correctly. You know, people weren't in the right places. You still won the game and held them to 14. So what does it matter? You gave up 92 yards in the air. I think there's some give and take with this defense, and I think you saw that tonight. And, I mean, especially with the system they run, they're always going to be lighter in the 4-2-5. So I don't buy it that the runs are an issue. Maybe they'll be an issue next week and we look like idiots, but I think this defense is playing good. I think defense travels, especially, and we've talked to defenders in press conferences, they say it's easier to play on the road because it's quiet. So I think defense travels. I think that gives Tennessee a fighting chance in Athens, because you look back to last year when Hendon Hooker and the offense faltered, the defense was like hot knife through butter. Like, everybody was scoring on that defense. This year it's not the same. Also, look at Georgia's offense. Carson Beck, I don't know what he looks at sometimes when he reads the field, but I mean, game that comes to mind is Florida last week. We watched that before Tennessee played the night game, and it was not pretty. So what Carson Beck do you get? What defense do you get? We'll be writing about that all week. Already got stories up about Nico and a gamer from Trevor. We'll have 5 critical moments, which I still have to work on because Nico getting injured wasn't in our coverage plan. Shout out senior staff writer Jack Church. Special teams time. Max Gilbert, 2 claps for the kid. He's back, kicking field goals, confidence back. Heupel shouted him out.
51-yard field goal.
24-yard field goal, 38-yard field goal, 51-yard field goal, 38-yard field goal. So it was a fluke, hopefully, for Tennessee's sake, that Max Gilbert had a bad game. That's a guy you're going to need in Athens, especially when you go playing games like that where 3 points is probably the decider. So good night for Max Gilbert. Jackson Ross did his thing. No complaints on the special teams. Not many issues there. How about the return game? Boo Carter, what'd you see out of the freshman who, when he was in high school at Bradley Central, CCS, everywhere he was at, was electric with the ball in his hands? The question was, could he run routes? Well, guess what? You don't have to run a route on a punt return.
Yeah, he really showed up in his first opportunity. Heupel's been hinting at it, said, guys, they pile on reps in practice, and that's how they earn a bigger role. And that's finally what happened with Boo Carter. He finally got that punt return roll. His first one took it 28 yards, picked it up on the 7-yard line, took it back to the 35. It gave Tennessee a lot better field positioning. And he said that there's not really such thing as a green light on a punt return. He kind of just takes it, and that's a really good mindset to have when you're an electric guy with the ball in your hands, because Tennessee punt returns this year haven't been very great. They've really missed D. Williams, and Boo Carter has a little bit of D. Williams in him if he's capable.
Yeah, and I think another thing with Boo is he's comfortable with the ball in his hands. You talked about that punt return. He caught that one. It was a line drive punt. He caught that one above his head like it was a pass. Didn't seem very concerned with it. Caught the pick fine. Has played great at the star position for Tennessee. So I think he continues to impact his freshman year. And that's why you bring in a guy like that. And that's why you win those in-state recruiting battles like Josh Heupel and his staff continue to do. For Trevor McGee, I'm Caleb Jarreau. We will be talking to you next week, probably a little earlier than 11:53 at night in Athens.
It's a 7:30 kickoff.
God, you hope it goes quicker than this one, though. Hopefully we're talking to you sooner than 11:53 at night. We had TV timeouts, referees, all the above. So for Trevor McGee, I'm Caleb Jarreau with the Daily Beacon. We'll see you next week.